So as we all know, the Marathon Alpha wrapped up on May 6th, and we were supposed to get the whole like what's next showcase type of ordeal. That was supposed to take place originally May 8th and then May 9th, and then I think something came up with Joe Ziegler. I don't know if he's sick or he had a family emergency. Either way, hope all is well with you, Joe. And now that has been pushed back to May 16th. So what I wanted to do in the meantime was have a little bit of fun speculating what I believe we may hear and what I hope that we get an update in regard to. So let's go ahead, put on our speculative caps, and let's talk. Now, the first thing I fully expect is for Bungie to come out and acknowledge all of the feedback that they've received across all the various social media platforms. You know, Bungie will definitely thank all the players that participated in the alpha playtest. Then they'll come out and they'll say something along the lines of that they are actively sifting through all of the feedback and truly taking it into consideration, whether if they were things that they've thought about or things that they may not have thought about, things that they agree with or things that they disagree with. They're going to cultivate a message that says, hey, look, we hear you, we're listening, and we're taking it all into consideration. Now, I would truly hope and pray that those words are true and that they are taking these things heavily into consideration. Of course, not all things, but you know, the things that have been critically fleshed out, I really hope they take them into consideration. Cough, cough, I am looking at you solo play opportunity. But really, I would think Bungie's whole goal with this is just to make sure that the consumer, the player, the individual in the community feels like they are heard. And again, I truly hope Bungie would be genuine with that and they aren't just spewing stuff at us to just make us feel good, even though they ain't taking nothing into consideration, you know? Something else that I think Bungie will actually do, just like they did when they first lifted the NDA, was to reiterate that the alpha playtest was just a vertical slice, you know? They'll probably clarify that this wasn't the entire gameplay loop, that all the systems weren't in play, and that everything that you did play again was set so that they could test the moment-to-moment gameplay and a couple little small things here and there. And to be honest, this would be smart, you know? This gives them the opportunity to further recalibrate the expectations. Kind of like I mentioned in a prior video of mine, I totally forgot and I totally failed to like keep it in my mind that this was just a vertical slice, especially after playing Arc Raiders. I was like, dude, what the heck? But then again, it got brought back up to my attention and I was like, oh shucks, yeah, totally right, you know? That's on me for making that mistake there. And, you know, I truly hope that Bungie wasn't selling wolf tickets when they was talking about this was a vertical slice. Because if they were, we in trouble, you know? But again, I think this would make total sense for them to reiterate this point and for them to, you know, give us some confidence in knowing that all the systems weren't in play, you know, the narrative wasn't in play, all that stuff, right? Or I should say all of the narrative wasn't in play, so on and so forth. Again, that gives us as a consumer confidence to say, oh, okay, cool. Like we didn't really get to see it in the alpha, but okay, you could pull back the curtain a little bit more, you know, let us in so we can see more and we can actually be somewhat excited about what's to come. And in speaking of pulling back the curtain, I honestly think we're going to get a teaser for one of the other maps, whether if we're talking about, what was the other map called? I think it was called Outpost. I think that was the third map, and then the fourth map, I don't think we got a name for, that takes place on the Marathon ship. I think they got to tease something there, right? They have to show us something, and especially with how people were feeling after the alpha, regardless if it was a vertical slice or not, people were not satisfied with what they seen. So Bungie, I know you all are literally the apex when it comes to not showing your hand, but you got to show us a card or two here. Like you have to make people have some type of faith that you all can still make it happen here, at least when it comes to creating a new IP or reviving an old IP in a new format, you know? Now, I don't know if this will be in the form of a trailer, gameplay, no idea, but they gotta tease us with something there. Alongside us seeing one of the new maps or one of the maps that we haven't seen yet, I think they will show off one of the other runners, because we're getting 6 runners at release and we've only been able to see and or experience 4 of them. So I think we're going to get to see another one. So I think we're going to get to see a 5th runner. I don't know if it will be that rumored thief runner or the one that's currently redacted, no idea, but I think we're going to be able to get to see them in action a little bit. I mean, when I think about it, it would make sense, right? Like Bungie has to quote unquote dangle the carrot a little bit more, because at this moment in time, everybody is excited about Arc Raiders coming and nobody really cares about what Marathon is doing, right? So again, Bungie, you all have to dangle that carrot. Show us a little bit more. Show us a card or two here. Showcase one of the other runners. Showcase a little bit about the Marathon ship, or, you know, a little bit of the map that's on the Marathon ship, excuse me, or the Outpost map that you all were excited about. You know, show us a little bit of that. You ain't got to show us the full picture, but give us little snippets. Something else I would expect to get some type of update in regard to will be Bungie explaining or giving us some type of explanation on how the factions and the faction system and the contract system play into the long-term gameplay loop. Because right now, I think it's safe to say that majority of players feel like that gameplay loop of dropping in, completing a singular contract, because we can't select multiple contracts, extract, rinse, repeat is a little bit shallow. And I know we have the priority contracts, and then you got some of the, what are they called, daily contracts, or you got other various contracts that don't necessarily progress the narrative. But again, you're just jumping in, doing a contract for whatever reason and jumping out, right? And I would love if Bungie could explain, hey, look, you remember those other 3 factions that you didn't get to test in the alpha playtest? Those factions have really in-depth contracts that really require you to do things that are a bit more involved with the actual lore. You know, these contracts are a little bit more chaotic. They actually provide greater variety and depth into the gameplay loop, and we kept those behind the curtain because, again, we were just testing the moment-to-moment gameplay and not necessarily the narrative-driven things. You know, I think it's really important for Bungie to share with us how, like, contracts progress or how things scale over time, because I don't know about you all, but going in, collecting this item, scanning that, and leaving, that gets stale really quick. So I would love for Bungie to be able to give us a further explanation of how those systems in play work, so we can know, okay, how will Marathon keep us engaged for the long term? Now, I have to talk about a few things that I hope Bungie will address in some capacity. Again, this is a little bit beyond speculation, but for the sake of Marathon success, for the sake of gaining back the trust of individuals that feel a bit jaded for whatever reason, I hope Bungie talks about these things. The first thing, as I'm sure you all already know, will be the solo play viability, right? The ability to solo queue. I think out of all the pain points that were brought up during this alpha playtest, this was like public enemy number 1. The fact that there was no solo only playlist or no solo priority matchmaking or anything like that, and the fact that this game was built solely around crews of 3. Now, this may be something that Bungie never thought about in a million years, and that could very well be the case, right? It's almost like, I don't know what the old saying is, but it's almost like you focus so much on all the like minute details and all the complicated things, right? It's almost like you know how to solve these quadratic formulas, but you almost forget how to do addition and subtraction. You know what I'm saying? I think that could have been the oversight here. Like, Bungie was so focused on making this immersive 3-player experience that they forgot that solo queue viability is just as important, if not more important, because look, when we play games, a lot of times we don't have 2 friends to just pull up and be able to rock out with us, right? Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Or if you go ahead and you solo queue with the crew fill on, you get 2 randoms that want to go and do their own thing. They aren't communicating with you. There's no coordination. And that experience absolutely sucks, yo. So it would be nice to just be able to queue in as a solo, get put on the map with other solos, and to be able to do our own thing. Who cares if everybody else is running void and everybody's just sitting in bushes and they're invisible? Who cares? Nobody cares, okay? Just give people that opportunity, and guess what? When you see that 99% of people are running void, that should tell you, man, maybe we should distinctly make the other classes better to make it a bit more enticing for them to want to run Locust or want to run Glitch or Blackbird instead of running Void when it comes to playing solo. It may be difficult, Bungie, but this is the bed that you all made, so you kind of gotta lie in it, and you all have to solve the conundrum of, how do we make our other runners so freaking cool that when somebody queues solo, they have to make a decision and figure out, who do I want to run for this particular solo run? Because Void is nice, but I don't want to give up the benefits of Locust or the benefits of Glitch or the benefits of Blackbird. Again, Bungie, the ball is in your court there, and you all got to figure that out. Now, I can't remember if I offered this solution before, but I think the simplest solution for Bungie to possibly indulge themselves in is to just make a fire team, not fire team, obviously this isn't Destiny, but like a crew-based matchmaking system where they do their best to match solos against solos, duos against duos, trios against trios, right? Something along the lines of that. And then just figure out how many people you're going to spawn on the map and figure out spawn locations. That just may be in your best interest. And then from there, Bungie, you can fine tune things and adjust things on the fly. But I think that is going to be in your best interest to somewhat solve this thing until further notice. And then you all can fine tune it over time, but you got to have a solo only option. If you don't, man, people are going to continue to revolt. And with the reception of Marathon right now, Bungie, the last thing you want to do is alienate any portion of this community. By the way, I got way off track there. I apologize. I got on a little bit of a soapbox there, but I'm just passionate about this, man. Like, you got to make a game that majority of people can play, you know, not just trios. I mean, shoot, I want to play solo sometimes too. And I don't want to play this like Apex Legends. If you all have ever tried to solo queue Apex Legends or drop in solo and play against other trios, that experience ain't it, yo. It ain't it at all. But anywho, I digress here. Now, something else that I'm hopeful for is that we get some type of beta dates, right? Give us a closed beta date and an open beta date if that's what you do. Or in all honesty, I think at this moment in time, we can't do anything else closed, Bungie. I think we need to do an open beta. And look, if you need to implement like a queuing system because the servers can't handle all these people downloading and playing Marathon at once, so be it, that's fine, but I think you need to open this up and you need to give us that larger peek behind the curtain and you need to allow people to feel this game. I think Marathon is one of those games too that when you watch it, it's kind of like, oh, okay. But when you play it, it's like, oh, it feels pretty good, you know? Gunplay feels good, movement feels good, especially as you start to unlock that upgrade tree. You know, that's one thing I learned, but I'll talk about that in another video. You know, you start to really gel with the game in that regard. And Bungie, at this moment in time, I think that is what you all need to do. Get this in the hands of people and continue to fine tune on the fly, because you've opened Pandora's box by allowing us to peek behind the curtain by you all lifting the NDA on that playtest, right? Now you got to see it through, my boy. You got to see it through. Now, when it comes to open beta dates, I would safely assume that Bungie would give us an open beta build if we were to look at that sometime in June or July. Like, I'm thinking late June to early mid-July, we would look at maybe a week-long open beta. Maybe it starts with the first week being a closed beta, and then the second week it opens up, something along the lines of that. Maybe it's just a weekend, right? I know Call of Duty would do weekends where they would have one weekend is exclusive to pre-orders, the following weekend is open. Maybe Bungie does something like that because it gives them a nice week buffer to reinforce the servers, to flesh out the infrastructure, whatever they need to do. I don't know, but I believe that they need to give us something to look forward to. And the more I talk and the more I think about it, I do feel like it has to be open in some capacity, because one big complaint that I did hear from a lot of individuals was they didn't get a chance to even try the alpha playtest. And I know the goal wasn't to let in as many people as possible and really stress out the servers, but I think that has to be the notion moving forward. A lot of people really gelled with Arc Raiders because they had a chance to get in due to Arc Raiders starting to be a little bit more lenient with the codes. You know, somebody plays for what, 4 runs or 30 minutes or something, they have 2 codes, and that system just snowballed. It snowballed. It snowballed. Now you got people on PC and on console jumping in, playing Arc Raiders and falling in love with it, right? So Bungie, the ball's in your court. I'm letting you know what you need to do. Just hey, holla at your boy. You know, I got the juice. I got the formula for you. No, jokes aside, I don't know what all it takes to be able to perfect something like that, like having a beta build ready and being ready for release. I don't know. I'm just speculating, and I'm just letting you all know from the viewpoint of a consumer what I believe we all need as we move forward. I could be totally wrong. This is my opinion, and you know, that's what I'm rocking with. But with this all being said, the ball is now in your court, my beautiful people. What do you all think? Do you all agree with my speculations? Do you all have any additional speculations? Please do me a favor and comment them down below. I would love to hear. I would love to know your thoughts ultimately. And when it's all said and done, I love you. Thank you all so much for coming and watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. And until then, we're signing out.